Don't you worry, the clip's about to begin, but don't forget to subscribe. Or else, don't make me turn this website around. We'll head to South Carolina, and we're going to talk to Craig. Craig, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Delightful.
Not believe you know me. I'm Craig Reed from Malibu. Paul and I are friends on my channel. Only once so far, but hopefully he will come back. So I'm not calling you to challenge you guys.
You're a little quiet, Craig. Can you speak louder? Or Jimmy, do you have that noise gate still going?
Yeah, I'm going to see if that's my end, but I don't think it is. Craig, if there's any way you can get the mic, I think it's actually that we need the mic closer to, if you're trying to use speakerphone right now.
I'm on a phone in the car. Should I hold it closer to my mouth?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, that's better.
I think so.
Better, thank you.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Let me try turning up the volume on the phone, too.
Awesome.
So I was going to throw out two topics, and whichever one you guys think would be more fruitful, I'm pretty easygoing. Jimmy, you were raised Mormon, correct?
Yeah.
Were you raised fundamentalist Mormon? Are there different, types of Mormons? Would Mitt Romney be like a Mormon light, for example? And there are degrees of,
Mormonism,
just like there are different types of Christians, there are different types of fundamentalist Mormons versus more normal mainstream Mormons, right?
Yeah.
I think. I'm just assuming.
No, so there is a mainstream church called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Colloquially, when you say Mormon, you are most often referring to them. I grew up in that mainstream. Okay. Now, the funny thing is, I would absolutely call what I grew up in fundamentalist. However, there is a church called the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They are the polygamists. They are the ones marrying teenage girls. They're the one with Warren Jeffs as their head. He's off in prison. That exists as well. And so Mormons will kind of say, if I use the phrase fundamentalist to describe them, meaning that they are talking about a literal interpretation and execution of the instructions in their holy books, being the Bible and the Book of Mormon, when you say fundamentalist to them, they're going to go, we're not the polygamist ones, despite the fact that they are themselves still fundamentalist in nature.
Is he like a Mormon light?
Romney is a member of the mainstream Mormonism. He grew up in the same one I grew up in, though at a different decade, which with the nature of Mormonism, you could actually say means he didn't grow up in the same one, but still a part of the same organization. We are still actually both members on that church's roll. I am still technically registered as a Mormon.
You, Mr. Atheist, is still a member there? That's pretty hilarious.
For years, I was pretty sure I had been excommunicated, found out I wasn't, and now I'm trying to decide what thing I'm going to do around resigning. I'm not just going to resign. I'm going to do some kind of fundraiser or something.
Public, on your channel, a huge resignation.
Yeah, make it a big deal.
Is that what you...
Yeah.
Now, Paul, for example, I'm pretty sure Paul was raised in, I would consider a pretty intense, even by fundamentalist standards, pretty intense. I would say Drew of Genetically Modified Skeptic, who's also been on my channel a couple times, is the most intense I've heard. Paul, was that fair? That you grew up in pretty intense?
Yes, that's very fair.
Between these two, and you said right earlier on on air that when you were Christian, you were only black and white thinking, right? So it was all
Correct.
This is either right or you were literalist.
Catholics are going to hell.
Everyone
for sure.
told you,
yeah.
Right? If you don't believe X proposition, you can't believe anything, and you're going to burn in hell. And you actually thought that, right?
Yeah, your baptism by sprinkling, that means nothing, or by immersion, that's nothing. So yeah, it's all. Yeah, I'm.
You actually literally thought that about the non-believers when you interacted with them? Did you actually literally think, I like this person's too bad, they're going to fry for like a nice person?
So the thing about living in a Mennonite-dominated area is you don't get to know a lot of straight-up atheists. So for me, it was always these shades of these liberal. Just being liberal was terrible. So, but what do you have a question to follow up with that? Yeah, we're both kind of fundamental.
Well, no, I was just kind of trying to explore the difference in.
Between mine and Jimmy's.
What's that?
You're talking about the difference between Jimmy's experience and my experience?
Yes. I would say yours is a little bit even more extreme than Jimmy's, from what I gather.
In its own belief way, but I would say the less extreme thing is, so my religion doesn't have any of the rituals surrounding disbelief. So when I stopped believing, I was unofficially cut off. I lost a lot of Facebook friends that week, but there's no... My parents, for example, were never asked to not talk to me, or, there's no ritual side. They, almost everyone I deal with, they probably would have started by praying for me and wishing for me to be back, and and some of those kind of things. There's, so while my beliefs may have been harsher, the consequences of me leaving, at least on an official status, would have to go to Jimmy, I would say. Would you think that's fair?
Right. So there was no... There's no official excommunication of Paul where you're...
Right. Mennonites do, but I was off the colony already, so, there are colony...
Even though in Mormonism, the ritualistic end is minimal, however, it's so heavily culturally reinforced that when people leave the church, they often lose, their friend group. They lose members of their family. And in this case, that was a blessing, not a problem for me. They lose...
Pretty okay with that.
Oftentimes, they even lose their careers. And actually, it was something that even in my late teens, I was detecting that I was going to always be against the grain, even if I stayed in Mormonism. And I started to build up a network and resources outside of Mormonism. So then when I did leave, they didn't have much to take away. So as far as what's left on the ritualistic end, even recently added are these things where at some point, he says he hasn't had to do it so far, but my dad is going to have a meeting with officials at the church and declare that he officially rebukes me and all of that. But it's not going to be a big public thing. However, what is culturally reinforced...
That's pretty weird, though, because that's pitting your own... That's actually really kind of creepy, if you ask me.
He doesn't have to not talk to me ever again, but he does have to tell the church that he officially is against what I'm doing, because I'm an outspoken critic of the church. If I had been a quiet non-believer, basically everybody just wouldn't... I would have left. I still would have lost friends and all that kind of stuff, but they usually will leave you be. Once a year, you're going to get that message from, and I still get them, somebody bearing their testimony to you about how you'll be back when you realize that the truth is more important than your sin, that kind of shit.
Wow, that's pretty hardcore if you ask me. Like, if I had an atheist kid, there's no way on earth I would ever officially denounce them before a group of people. I would be horrified. I'd quit the church before I did that. But I know you can't do that with Mormonism.
There's no Christians I know that are anywhere in your camp. So
yeah,
like you're a denomination of one, my friend.
I'm a denomination of one. Well, I consider that a compliment coming from you, Paul. I'm pretty sure you mean that. It sounds like an insult, but it's actually a compliment. And actually, Laura and John is kind of in my denomination, right?
Who?
Laura Robinson.
Perhaps Laura, I think, treats these things a little bit more. Her day job is a little more scholarly than what you care to sully yourself with. But yeah, perhaps.
The other question. This leads to the other question. So, Jimmy, you're you're friends with Brenda from God is Gray, and I've actually brought that up on my channel a couple times. And tell me if this rings true to you. You're kind of big part of your public persona, big priority is gay rights and everything associated with gay rights. And she's very gay friendly, if not actively on your side in those areas. So you naturally formed an allyship with her along those lines. Is that kind of right or no?
Yes.
Okay. So how would you describe her? Is she like a more liberal Christian, open-minded, and you don't necessarily have a problem with that? You just don't believe what she believes?
So do I have a problem with it? It depends on what your description of problem is, because she and I absolutely do still have little mini debates over the phone. And I definitely try to challenge the belief end of things. Regarding who she is and the people I will network with, I don't care as far as, first of all, I'll be friends with people I completely disagree with. Like, I haven't told people yet, but there is another YouTuber that first of all, I've made a video criticizing, and I assume most of my audience hates, and we're friends. We've become friends, and we actually became friends because I made a.
Please say Paul Morgan.
No, it's not Paul Morgan, but we
Morgan?
actually no, it's not. But I actually became friends with this YouTuber because they reached out after I made the video critical of them. I'm not gonna say who it is still one day, because if I ever am gonna say it, I'm gonna let them like pop up in a video just to fuck with everybody. But what it comes down to is, regardless of what a person's views are, if they are pretty demonstrably humanist, even if they have a belief system that you would think would be counter to that, it really doesn't matter to me the rest of their beliefs, as long as they are like me, a humanist. Right. So when it comes to Brenda, and I've said this on air, so some people take this kind of thing as an insult, but I think it's pretty demonstrable that all Christians do a level of cherry picking of their Bible. She at least is realistic about the possibility that parts of this Bible were written by men for men, but I see Brenda, or even Dominic, who I've done a number of shows with, especially on one of my other channels. Both are Christians whose humanism clearly comes first, and their humanism informs the way in which they interpret the Bible or interpret. Now, regardless of if these people self-identify as humanists, also doesn't matter to me, as long as their actions are consistent with humanism. And so,
right.
as
they
far
have a value system that you agree with. A core value system that you agree with that transcends the surface differences in beliefs. Could that be a way of saying it?
Yeah, I like the word transcend, because I think it's very easy to transcend a God belief personally, but that's just me.
Paul, what do you think? You don't really, outside of me, do you have any other friends that you pal around with that are Christians?
Well, all of my children are Christians, and everyone in my family are Christians. So, there are people in this house right now who are Christians. So, yes, I mean, that's all fine. I think I still would have a little bit more problem. I feel I identify as an atheist, and when I say that, I mean, I believe that the earth would be better off without religious beliefs. That doesn't mean religion can't do good things. That doesn't mean I think any religious person is worse than any non-religious person. I just have this belief, and that if we didn't have religion, that we'd all be just fine, Star Trek style.
Imagine no religion.
So in my own way, I think I'm torn, because I love some progressive Christians. For example, Laura and John, who you just mentioned, they're great people. Now, I still feel a little bit like the progressive Christianity sometimes serves as a shield for the really terrible people, and I'm torn about that and what to do with that. And maybe it's not really up to me to do anything about that. But I do feel like sometimes the good Christians are a shield for the ones that would be some distasteful things. I am like Jimmy, though. I'm going to put a humanist cause, a short-term humanist cause, something within my lifetime, I'm going to put ahead of, hopefully within 1,000 years, maybe religion may be diminished as an importance in voting. So, that's where I'm at.
Right, because one of the things that I pointed out is a lot of people, I don't know about Jimmy as much, but I know most of the people in Paul's circle of friends who I've interacted with a lot, like Drew, Objectively Dan, Shannon. By the way, there's a lot of Shannon coming on the channel. People demand Shannon, so that's a good thing. Most of the people, most of your top shelf atheist friends are not actively like in your face trying to deconvert you, so they're pretty easy to get along with. Like, we have genuine conversations and stuff like that. That's really all I care about. Like,
that's how we get you.
I'll be cool right back. What's that?
That's how we get you. It's all a trick.
I know, because you're love bombing me, but I could handle it.
Craig, final thoughts from you, because we do have two more callers to get to in the next 15 minutes. So give your final thought, and we're gonna let you go.
No, I'm fine. This was good. I want to call back a few times. I almost
Cool.
called last week with Seth and Matt, but
Cool.
I didn't connect. I was in the car too long and had to go.
No worries.
I would like to call back a few times. So
Cool. Seth
I'm
will be
fine.
on a future here in the next month. Seth will be on my Friday show. Actually, we're going to be taking questions about his book. So, thanks, Craig.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Later.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
There's so many people. So people are like in the chat and they're like, so first of all, Quaco and I are friendly. I don't know using the word friends would be, but we were having a heavy rivalry and then we linked up and we were sort of reminded of the humanity of each other when we did that. And we've been friendly since. But so Quaco was not the person I was referring to. It's also not Abby from Classically Abby. I'm not going to tell everybody who it is, but Ray Comfort and I are best friends. No, I'm kidding. It's not Ray Comfort.
Well, strangely, along those lines, like Eric Hovind and I are now friendly. We are not friends, but like he had a hurricane come through, and I've been talking with him about whether there's legitimate cases, who should we be supporting, like who's got real damage. Like it's weird. Like sometimes the strange bedfellows.
Yeah, you can get along with. All right, fine. It's Josh Feuerstein. All right, moving on. Hey, my God, I don't think that's even possible. I couldn't.
No.
I could not. But I do owe him a fruit basket because he is who came up with the Dear Mr. Atheist moniker that I stole. Well, I didn't steal. He said Dear Mr. Atheist in a video, and I was like, if no one's going to take up the mantle, certainly I shall. And now I just go by Jimmy. Hey, thanks for checking out this clip for The Line. While you're here, hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and then share this with that bitter uncle of yours who loves talking about the good old days.